Welcome to Back Porch Cooking and Reminiscing. I'm Roger, and as always, happy to have y'all here with us today. Today we're going to be making some delicious homemade yeast rolls. So y'all stick around and I'm going to show you how it's done. Today I'm showing you how to make the softest, fluffiest yeast rolls you've ever had. These rolls come out golden on the outside, light and pillowy on the inside, and they literally pull apart in layers. If working with yeast has ever scared you, don't worry. I'm going to walk you through this step by step. So the first thing we're going to do to make my mama's, I want to call them a famous yeast roll, is to take 1 cup of milk and we've got 1 tablespoon of sugar. We're going to put that sugar in with the milk. Now, we're going to take this milk and we're going to go to the microwave with it, and we're going to heat that milk up to somewhere between 98 and 100 degrees. And we need it that temperature so that our yeast will start working when we put the yeast in it. But right now, it's just the milk and the sugar. So I'm going to put this in the microwave and get it heated up, and we'll continue on after we get that done. So we put our milk in the microwave, and I've got one of those little bitty microwaves, and it took about 70 seconds in the microwave for my milk to get to 100 degrees. So it's ready, and we're going to put the yeast in there, and we're going to give it a good stir. And once we get all of that combined and incorporated into the milk and everything, we're going to just let it sit for a while it blooms. Take a few minutes for it. This is the Fleshman's Rapid Rise Instant Yeast, so it does do its thing a little quicker than the old kind of yeast that used to everybody would get. So we'll get that stirred in, and then we'll just let that sit. So we've got our butter here and a half a teaspoon of salt, and we're going to put that in the microwave, and we're going to heat that up and melt our butter. We don't want to get our butter too hot, so just put it in there for a few seconds. So we've melted our butter and salt in the microwave, and next thing we're going to do is we're going to add our egg to that. All right, and now our yeast is blooming, and you're going to see bubbles on top of it, and you can actually hear it making noise, so you know that your yeast is blooming when it's doing that. So we're good on that. And we'll mix our egg and butter and salt up here. Just give it a good mix like you were making scrambled eggs. All right, and that's all we're going to do to that. And now we're going to take this and we're going to get our 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. And of course, y'all know we use white lily. And we're going to add our egg and melted butter and salt to this flour. So we just dump it in just like that. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put our yeast, our milk, and our sugar in there. Grab me a spoon here, and we're just going to pour that in. And it's good to use one of these rubber spoons so that you can get in there and get everything out that you need. Okay, and then you're just going to start to incorporate that in. Just give it a good stir. And it doesn't take too long for this to come together. I can still hear that yeast working, which is what we want to hear. And you just keep stirring and incorporating everything, kind of turn it over a little bit and get all that flour mixed in. I'm telling you, these are already smelling good. Smells just like I remember them when my mom would make them. Just keep on working that dough around and turn it over because you got some on the bottom that won't be completely mixed. So we just need to get it all. And that's why using this rubber spoon works the best, is because that way you can get down there and get everything off the bottom. But you can see it's kind of starting to pull away from it, the sides of the bowl, which again, that's what we want. So we just about got that part done. I still see a few little particles of flour. So I'm going to give that a little more of a mix. All right, so now we got our dough looking like what we want it to look. I probably added about another third of a cup of flour to that. So we're probably looking at actually starting out with somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe a cup and 3/4, something like that. But this is what we want it to look like. So it's starting to pull away from the spatula and pulling away from the sides of the bowl. And the next thing that we're going to do, we've put some flour down on our cutting board and we're going to turn our dough out onto this flour. Hard to hold the bowl and scrape our mix out, but I'm getting it there. Try to make sure I get every drop of it out. All right, so after you get it out of your bowl, the next thing you want to do is you want to get a little flour on your hands, because that's going to kind of help that not to stick. And if I remember correctly, my mom would always put a little bit of flour on top of her stuff there. And we'll get us a little in our hands. All right, and then we just kind of start to work it, and we want to get it to where it's not sticky anymore. And that will take a few minutes to get it to that point, but it will get there. That dough is so soft and tender. Of course, you're going to make a mess. There's no doubt about that. And then you just kind of start kneading it in and kind of do like a quarter at a time, and you just mash it down, push it. And you're going to need this for probably 3 or 4 minutes. And that way you get everything worked up that needs to be worked up. Now this dough is going to rise too. So if it feels like you're getting more than what you had to start with, that's a good thing. I'd say just keep kneading it, and probably about 3 or 4 minutes on it. But it's not sticky anymore, and I'm able to handle it without it sticking to my hands, which is what we want. And just keep turning it over and keep getting that flour on it. This is the tedious part of it, is doing this and getting your dough ready. So we got our dough ready here, and what we're going to do is we're just going to try to cut that in half. And you want to use something good and sharp to cut it in half. And then we're going to cut it in half again. And we're going to cut it in half one more time. All right. Now, what I'm going to try to get 8 rolls out of this. Some of them's going to be smaller than the other, and so we're going to do the best we can. So we're going to cut us one. This little flour on there. And then we're just going to put a roll together. All right, there's one. Might have to get a little more flour here on our cutting board, as our dough's getting a little on the sticky side. We don't want sticky dough. That's going to make a nice big roll right there. All right, then we're going to cut this one. And it really doesn't matter, if they're perfect or not, because they're going to be good. So perfect doesn't necessarily mean anything. One thing I forgot is let's go ahead and get our oven preheating to 350 degrees. All right, got that. Try scooting these down a little bit because we're not going to have enough room for 8 of them if we don't. It's okay if they touch or if they don't touch. Doesn't really matter. I think I might take just a little piece of that and put it on this other one here that I was kind of short on. Take that one out and we'll add a little to it, make it a little bigger than what it was. Might even take a little piece off of this one. Try to make them just a little bit more even. All right, yeah, that looks much better. All right, we'll just put that one in there, and then we'll take our last one. And again, it doesn't really matter if they're equal or if they're not. They're going to taste great. And our last one. Get a little flour on that one. So now we got them off. So what we want to do, because they're going to need to rise a little bit. So we're just going to kind of sit them back here on the back of the stove where the stove's warming up, and probably give them about 15 minutes. So our rolls have been sitting for about 15 minutes, and something I didn't tell you is take a towel and cover your rolls up when you're letting them rise. You can use paper towel, damp paper towel, or if you've got one of these cloth ones, you can use it. So that's something I did forget to tell you about. So we're going to remove that now. And this is what our rolls are looking like. And something else I remembered that I had forgotten about that my mom did was that she would take a knife and she would cut a little slit across the top of the dough. And sometimes she would cut just a slit across the top. Sometimes she would do a crisscross like that. And I always wondered why she did it because I had no clue. So one day I asked her, I said, Mom, why do you cut a slit across the top of the rolls? And she said, well, I do that because that will help to release the gases that are in the dough. So I learned something that day. So we're going to cut us a slit in each one of them. A couple of them I did the crisscross like she would do sometimes. All right. So there we go. Let's just go ahead and cut a crisscross in all of them just to make them be pretty. Helps if you got a good sharp knife. I'm not 100% sure mine's good and sharp, but we'll do what we can do with it. All right, and so after that, we're ready to put these babies in this 350-degree oven and let them cook. And it doesn't take long for them to cook. It seems like maybe somewhere between 12 and 15 minutes. So we'll be back here in just a little bit and see how they're coming. So it's been about 15 minutes. Our rolls came out. They are beautiful. And now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to just take and rub some butter on the tops of them. The more butter, the better. That's what I've always heard. So we're going to put a lot of butter on there. These smell so good. I can't wait to get one of them. I'm going to put me some extra butter down in the, cut one of them in half, put me some extra butter down in them. Like I say, they are beautiful. Just putting this butter on there, I can feel how spongy that they are. This is the easiest way to put butter on biscuits or any kind of bread that you want to put butter on is just to take a stick and open it up and just start rubbing it on there. That's a whole lot easier than trying to pour butter on it or anything like that. Y'all, my mouth's already watering just smelling these. Like I say, get you plenty of butter on there. All right, so there we got them buttered down, and now we're going to just wait on them to cool a few minutes, and then I'm going to taste test one. All right, y'all, I got me one here. I cut it open, I put me some butter in the center of it. So now we're going to try it and see how they taste. see if I was able to duplicate my mom's recipe. And they are golden brown on top and a little brown on the bottom. They're not super brown, but that's fine with me. I'm happy with that. All right, y'all. Here goes. So y'all, that is a awesome roll. You can have these dinner time. You could even add any type of seasoning or herbs that you wanted to it. Maybe even add some cheddar cheese and make it a kind of like a cheddar cheese biscuit. But you can definitely taste the yeast in it. Um, the only thing that I would say that I might could have done is maybe use just a touch bit more sugar to give it a little more sweetness. I can taste the sweetness, but it's not super sweet. But that might be something that if you make them, you think about maybe adding just a little bit more sugar to it than what I did. But all in all, they are delicious. So, y'all remember, make this for your family, share it with your friends, and remember to hit that like and subscribe button on the video. Y'all have a great day, and we'll see you next time.